Welcome to our Sunday reflections. This Sunday is the 6th Sunday of Ordinary Time. Before we enter into the reflection, I'd like to leave you with a question that you may think about as you listen to this reflection. And the question is this: does God love the poor and hate the rich? Does God love the poor and hate the rich? At first glance, in this Sunday's Gospel from Luke, it may seem that Jesus is promoting a class struggle, the poor class against the rich. Jesus declares the poor blessed and condemns the rich. From the content of the Gospel, we can affirm that God in Jesus has taken the side of the poor. However, this would be a simplistic interpretation that would distort the content of the gospel. In the world of Jesus' time, there was a mindset, which we still find in our own times, that thought that the poor were poor because it was the will of God. The condition of poverty was attributed in some way to the condition of sinfulness or the rejection by God of the poor. The same would be thought of the hungry, the sick, and the persecuted. Those who rejected Jesus, when they saw him on the cross, confirmed their belief. He was a man rejected by God because he hung on the cross. In contrast, the rich were rich because God had blessed them and provided for their privileges. Even Jesus' disciples manifested this kind of thinking. This is the kind of thinking that Jesus strongly rejects in today's gospel. The poor, the hungry, those who mourn, and the persecuted are blessed not because they are better than the rich, neither morally or spiritually, but because their poverty and suffering condition does not deny them access to God. This is very important. Let me repeat this again. The poor, the hungry, those who mourn, and the persecuted are blessed not because they are better than the rich, morally or spiritually, but because their poverty and suffering condition does not deny them access to God. Their poverty and suffering are not a rejection nor a punishment from God. Why does God in Jesus choose to stand with the poor, the hungry, those who mourn, and the persecuted? Because they are the most forgotten, ignored, rejected, and invisible to the world and society. With this preferential option of God in Jesus, we are told unmistakably that we will be judged in the manner that we treat the most vulnerable in our midst. The condemnations of the rich, those who are satisfied, those who laugh, and those who seek the approval of the world is rooted in what Jeremiah says in the first reading for this Sunday. Cursed is the one who trusts in human beings, who seeks his strength in flesh, whose heart turns away from the Lord. Jesus does not condemn the rich simply for being rich, or the satisfied for having food to eat, or those who laugh because they are happy, or those whom the world praises for their success. The condemnation is rooted in how the rich and satisfied have displaced God from the center of their lives, and their rejection of any relationship with the most vulnerable. Jesus condemns wealth that is not connected to God and our neighbor. Jesus condemns those who are satisfied because they ignore the hunger of others. For example, we had the parable of the rich man and Lazarus in the Gospel of Luke. Jesus condemns those who laugh, who have no consideration for those who suffer. Jesus condemns those who seek the praises of the world and not the justice of God. However, It is not charity nor pity for the poor, the hungry, the suffering, or persecuted that Jesus is asking of us. Let me repeat this again because it's very important. It is not charity nor pity for the poor, the hungry, the suffering, and persecuted that Jesus is asking of us. What he does demand, and again, let me stress this, what Jesus demands from us is justice, kinship, and solidarity, particularly with those that are most vulnerable in our midst. My name is Father Tony Diaz, Claretian missionary. God bless.